everyone. Thanks for coming. I'm sure a few more people will hop in, but I can kind of get started on a little bit of high-level stuff that's not that important. I just have so I do have a new structure now where if you go to the Notion, there's two places I'm going to put the weekly agenda. And so if anyone wants to add to the weekly agenda and has like an action item, there's a couple of things you can do. You can DM me beforehand, a couple of days before the meeting, or an hour before the meeting, whatever, and I'll add you to the agenda. But also, I can, if you look at the actual event in the Farmer Dan, you mind muting? In the if you click events, you'll see I'm going to post like a abbreviated schedule in there, and I'm going to post a detailed schedule in the Notion. And where you can find that is in DAO Notion. And then meetings, the meetings tab, which has like a little phone next to it. And if you click that, then I'm going to have upcoming meeting agendas. And if you click then on, it'll have a little notebook next to it. So if you click Beanstalk Farms DAO meeting, this one is, January 20th. Then if you click that, you can click open, and then that will have all the meeting notes. So right now we have like 12 agenda items, and then obviously there'll be time at the end where anyone can bring anything up, but that's kind of this gives you a little bit of a format of what we're trying to achieve, what's on the schedule, and who's going to be doing the talking. So just to get that's my opening little rant, which is I just said update, new meeting structure, Dumpling speaks, 2 minutes. So I think I used my 2 minutes there. So I don't know if it's useful for me to say everything we're going to talk about today before we talk about it. I might just do it this time because it's the first meeting. But in the future, since people will know where to look, I won't have to go over the schedule before. But I probably just mention it this time just to make it a little easier for people. And good, I can see a few people are actually on the Notion, so that's cool. But so the next item, I was just going to chat. We're going to have a Beans of Poker tournament meeting tomorrow. So I just wanted to kind of chat a second about what that's going to be, where that meeting is going to be held. Then after that, Farmer Dan was going to talk a little bit about the merch update and how that's going to roll out. Then we were going to, D's Beans was going to talk about educational material. Sorry, I was going to talk about educational materials, but maybe D's Beans will talk about it a little bit too. Then D's Beans and I were going to talk about a kind of the overall DAO structure and an org chart that we've put together, that kind of a visual org chart, which we think is really cool. And we wanted to kind of show that to the community and maybe get a little bit of input on it. Then E-Real, who I don't think is here today. He told me he wasn't going to be here, so that's fine. We might actually just push that item because he's not here. He has an idea for email standardization that we might talk about maybe next meeting, but it's not urgent, so we'll push that. Then Silo Chad was going to tell us about the Pod Marketplace update. Then IPO and Chill and JWW were going to tell us about the marketing agency exploration that they've been up to. So just a short update on that. JWW was going to update us on the NFTs. JWW is going to update us on the payroll. And then Syncubate and JWW are going to update us on the Pods initiative to support 1559 community. So look forward to that. And then D's Beans will tell us about the branding progress update, highlight stuff from the branding meeting that happened on Monday, and just kind of update the DAO on that. So a lot of small kind of 5-minute items, but we'll go ahead and get started. So on the Beans of Poker tournament, that's going to be a meeting with me, Farmer Dan, Bean Intern, and whoever else is interested and wants to be a part of that project or just has some ideas on it. So that's going to be tomorrow at 9 p.m. Eastern time. So we have to do a little bit of a time zone dance because of Bean Intern's time zone, but totally cool. And so if anyone wants to hop into that chat, we'll just do it here in the barnyard. And we're going to talk about also maybe Mr. Manifold, if you happen to be available, that'd be great. If you could come too. But we're going to chat about different people we can collaborate with, different protocols that might be interested. Right now, we have some people with from Olympus. We have some people from Bong Bears, some people from Income, however you pronounce that, and a couple other NFT projects that we think might not only have people who want to buy into the tournament, but also would donate towards the prize pool, which would help us diversify the prize pool and hopefully bring more people in. So the things we're going to be talking about during that meeting are which providers are going to be best to use, or which poker platforms, and how to divvy up the prize pool, maybe the structure of the prize pool, timing of the tournament, things like that. So I won't take too much more time, except to say that if we could get a developer to come to that meeting just to kind of give us an idea of what the technical limitations are going to be, how feasible it is to have like a buy-in option on the website, on the bean.money website, that would be super cool. So I don't know if anyone here could speak to that or could commit to coming to the meeting tomorrow so we could get into that in detail, but that's something that we're going to need. And if we're shooting to have the tournament in February, that's something that we need to figure out sooner rather than later. So that's something that's my last item on the poker tournament. But does anyone have kind of the bandwidth for that, or the fib, or does anyone? I'm just trying to. I don't know really who would be involved with that. It seems like we're going to need some kind of smart contract for people to put like 100 beans in, for that to be locked up, and that's going to be the prize pool, which later is delivered. Ideally, there would be some kind of front end stuff that would show how many people have registered. That would kind of a snappy interface. I'm thinking along the lines of when Olympus did 3-3 together. I don't know if anyone else was involved with that or had seen that, but they did this cool thing where basically they gave away their rebases for 3-3 together. It was super cool. And I have some screenshots of it. I thought it was a really nice looking sort of interface that they had there. So anyway, anyone who's free, or I can follow up with people later, but might be cool to see who's available for help and to kind of get an idea of what might be doable. So
yeah, I think we'll probably be able to help out a lot with that. Okay. We probably don't need to spend too much time talking about that in a group setting, but it's not particularly complicated, and given how we already have the NFT setup, it'll just be porting over a similar structure for like a basic contract that'll probably just support buy-ins, if you will, and then we can maybe represent that buy-in as something that you receive in return for your buy-in, and then you can use that to authenticate, sort of like through Collabland or something, and entry into the poker game. Just making that up here, but
awesome.
The idea
that sounds great.
We'll be able to figure something out.
Okay, I just wanted to get a quick gut check for feasibility, so it wasn't like we came up with this great plan, but then we couldn't actually execute on it. So okay, that's great.
We should just circle up on that sooner rather than later, and because it will take a little bit of time given how much other stuff is going on.
Sure. Also, if now you're you're already making me get into dreamland a little bit, but if we could have some kind of NFT that you receive in exchange for your buy-in, that'd be pretty awesome, because we'd get people to screenshot that and share it and that kind of thing. Maybe that rotating coin that Bean Goons designed would be awesome. So anyway, we'll save that for the meeting, but I just wanted to mention that. Okay, so next on the agenda is Farmer Dan. Do you want to chat a little bit about the merch update? What's going on there?
Yeah, for sure. Excuse me. So yeah, the hats are currently on the way. I got an update email yesterday, actually. It looks like they're not going to be arriving until February 8th, though. Just some, classic pushbacks there. And then, yeah, we are, if you've taken a look in the merch channel recently, we're also, getting some votes or some says for different mugs as well as shirts. The shirts were made by Bean Goons as well. I think they're awesome. They're just like the Genesis NFTs, like the shirts that they're wearing there. So yeah, those will be pretty sweet. Those will be ordered, within the next couple of days here. So yeah, if you haven't gotten a chance to look, we were just hoping to get some sizing polling as well as on the 2 different mug designs there. So yeah, if you're interested, just go ahead and take a look in there. Yeah, both of those things are coming in the short term as well, and similar setup. Just be shipping them out once we receive them. So yeah, that's pretty much it there. We definitely something, you and I should talk about the potential of adding to the merch store, just in the way I've been getting some other requests for people wanting hoodies or like NFT shirts and stuff like that. So, if we could put, just kind of riff on that as well.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And also eventually if people could, one thing I had to maybe just discuss and see if anyone has any ideas on is the viability of paying for things in Bean would be super cool. If I'd love it if I could buy a hoodie with Bean, right? But then just trying to understand the fees the fees associated with that and if it would make sense. So I don't know, just it seems like it probably wouldn't, but it'd just be amazing if this could be our first actual use case of Bean, right? I don't know.
Yeah. And then kind of just going off of that as well, it looks like the layer 3 bounties just got voted and pushed through earlier today. So yeah, I guess we'll have to touch base on that, Mr. Manifold. But yeah, if that's the case, we can definitely go ahead and get those pushed out to the layer 3 team. I'm not sure. Obviously, we'll have to touch base on all this, but it seems like everything is in the next few days going to be ready to go for those as well.
And we have our announcement ready for that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. No, Uriel's not here, but yeah, he put that together and it looks nice.
Okay. Well, great. Yeah. Well, thanks for that. And so yeah, go ahead and head over to the merch section and vote so we get an idea for sizing. Some cool stuff on the way there, and we'll give more updates as they come in. Okay. So next, we have. In the branding meeting, we had a really big priority of creating more educational materials. So we've been, you'll notice in the DAO, let's pull up it, in the DAO project section, there's been a couple of new projects that have been made. One of them is video curriculum. So we have several people now who are working on a whole series of videos that are going to be educational videos. So we have, if you're interested in that, head over to that channel and you can chat with the folks in the channel. It was a DM with Mod, with TB, with JWW. I'm sorry if I'm forgetting a few people who were involved, but D's Beans is going to be working heavily on that project too. So if you're interested in that, head over to that video curriculum channel and kind of raise your hand because we're going to get moving on that stuff pretty soon. Then this was also, I know that the Zero to Beanstalk. Yeah, I was going to bring JWW. Do you want to talk about the Zero to Beanstalk initiative and elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Actually, that's just because I've never shared my screen in here. I want to try it. So we, one thing that I've been thinking about, I think we all kind of voiced, but thinking about for a while is how to actually try to focus on the full bandwidth of non-DeFi users to those that have, that work on a Curve 3 pool, et cetera, the full bandwidth of people that we can think about reaching. And so maybe a month or two ago, I started sketching down some ideas about a Zero to Beanstalk initiative of what it would actually take to get someone who's never interacted with the computer, but has never actually done anything with anything in DeFi or with crypto before, and trying to actually get them into Beanstalk and really break it down to be as simple as possible. It was a way for me to just try to explain it to myself in more detail, but then also to talk to friends and family, especially those who are by no means involved with any of this. And so I started working through a really simple deck that I was hoping then could become a thread where we talk through really basic concepts of DeFi and cryptocurrency. And the idea is like, okay, after 10 minutes, my initial hope was like after 10 minutes of doing this, like Beanstalk 101, so to speak, you'd be in a position where you could actually then go invest, like which we would talk about in Beanstalk 102, where you could like jump in and we would teach you how to actually make a transaction. And the thinking behind it, it was really very simple. Excuse like the notes that we have here, but like taking a very simple phrase such as this, where and this is not a final version or anything, but just this kind of language where Beanstalk is Bean is a type of a cryptocurrency, specifically an algorithmic stable, et cetera, but taking that and breaking this down to make it as digestible as possible, like through analogies where we pair a bean with $1 and email with physical mail. So again, just at the end of it, the end goal would just be like, okay, we want anyone to be able to like basically spoon feed them into beans. And again, this is not like D's Beans is doing an awesome job on the branding piece, which is we're targeting a little bit more on the DeFi, and we've got this persona of this person. This like that curriculum, and then to Dumpling's point, we started to kind of expand more on like what the videos would actually look like. This is something that actually came up a few months ago during one of the very early DAO meetings where we were talking about like how do we feel confident like onboarding people, how do we develop a series of classes for people to feel like they're advancing and making sure that they're getting the right content, like Publius and the Publius community has like so much thinking. How do we actually take as much of that as possible and like make sure it's accurate and pushed into the community? And so that I think this curriculum that we're thinking about now in these videos are the start of like a broader scope of like this coursework. And so the Zero to Beanstalk broadly, in my mind, is like something again we've talked about for a couple of months now. Of like, how do we break this down to make it as accessible as possible and kind of continue with the narrative of universities and classes and stuff like that, so that someone at any, again, whether they're a DeFi crypto native or someone who's never even heard of DeFi, can get up to speed with Beanstalk. Some of this we need to create, some of it already exists, obviously. And it's not saying that we need to focus on all of this, but just starting to map down like what this journey would look like. And so some of the thinking behind this kind of Zero to Beanstalk curriculum was taken from, again, that group that Dumpling just started, where TB throws some ideas out for creating videos. And this is not by no means a fleshed out set. It's just like initially, like, okay, like what would it actually take from someone who's, again, never heard of DeFi to get them all the way to the level of, just understanding impermanent loss or peg maintenance too. And again, this is not by any means this isn't assigning anything or anything like that. It's just like walking through the steps of getting there. And so what would be awesome is to talk through these courses in more detail, add learnings that we could have at some point, again, and where we need to focus is very, very crucial, because all of this could become like disaster if everyone's trying to focus on it. So again, it's just more so high level to put that thinking on paper. And then Publius, obviously your thoughts on a lot of this would be invaluable. But even when we get down to like the bottom part of it, for example, like somebody who might be like an advanced expert in the field, like they, there's even a video, where we're actually walking through the equations in more detail, so that by the end of it, after you kind of graduate through class 502 or 505, like you should understand Beanstalk through and through. And then this kind of layout is, again, something we've talked about in the community for a while, where ideally we can say like, okay, a true shepherd or somebody who we're going to help, somebody who we want in the community talking to, newcomers and stuff like that, has some kind of designation, and we know that they've gone through all of these courses, etc. So we can use it for a bunch of different purposes. Again, it's not fully fleshed out. The idea is just barely on paper, but just wanted to show you guys what this kind of very high level thinking was about. Obviously get everyone's thoughts, everyone to tear it apart, break it apart, tell us it's garbage and we'll just delete the whole spreadsheet. But just wanted to share kind of high level what that looks like. And again, we've had a bit of conversation about it, but I think it's like very important that we, down the road, when we want to focus on like the non-DeFi users from like a outreach perspective and stuff like that. Again, not saying that's the target in the near term, but down the road, it's just going to be helpful for us to be able to tie all this narrative back together. So anyway, that's just a quick snapshot of it. Everyone's thoughts would be great. Sorry for the long-winded explanation.
Sure. JWW, that's the first I've seen this spreadsheet. Looks super cool. I think that I'd be happy to open it up and see what other people think.
Yeah. Hi guys. I think what can you hear me? Can everyone hear me first?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, I think what JWW has done is great, especially with the highway system where anyone can come in at anywhere and then suddenly join in that highway and get that education or courses that you want. And one of the things that we were discussing yesterday was thinking, where do we want to focus? So like which like courses or which material do we think is the one that we start with and then we embed to the rest. And after that, I looked into the proposal for the landing video that Wolfie and These Beans are working about. These Beans, we had a chat yesterday and he briefed me or got me up to date with it. And I think there's a lot of great work happening there. And the way that I'm thinking about it is when I joined the community a month ago, all of my thinking was going towards how do we make Beanstalk more efficient. And the more I've been listening to the conversation, getting it, I understand that our target is growth right now. So it's not efficiency; it's getting more people onboarded and to grow in it together. And Wolfie seems that he has done a good amount of thinking in it with the script that he's working on that landing page. And what I'm thinking is, do we want to think of a unified message and then use that in different channels? So right now, what they're thinking about is how do we get someone to convert, so you have a follower and how do we convert that follower into a user or into a Beanstalk user? So if we get that amount of thinking and we decide this is the message that we wanna deliver, and then we can start rephrasing it into different channels with different content. So the same message, we do curriculum for it. This is how it starts. The landing page, Twitter threads, blog posts, etc., etc., etc. But we have the same message, which is focused on how can we convert the day-to-day user or someone who doesn't know anything about it and switch that. Does that make sense?
I think that makes sense, and actually, I think These Beans is actually really nailing this on the branding work that he's tackling. And we actually did chat about this yesterday. I think These Beans and Sweet Red Beans have put a ton of work in this and talked to the community. And These Beans, I'm not sure, not to put you on the spot or anything, or I think you were going to talk about it later. But I know from like a tone and voice, for example, like again, they put in a ton of hours behind this. So like even for example, the whole curriculum that we just walked through, none of this would ever be done like from a content or creative perspective without ever the whole creative team controlling all of that, right? So I think that is actually in the works, which is great news. But These Beans, I don't know if you want to chime in.
Hey, yeah. No, that's definitely a good question. That would probably make sense. That's definitely a great idea. It's nothing's ironed out just quite yet as far as like a uniform message for when we start. I guess this is the discovery process for the user. A quick update on the landing page video though, because that might be something good to talk about while we're on that topic. So Wolfie and Wildheart, they've been doing a great job. eReal has been helping a ton with editing some of the content and the material for it. And hopefully we're going to try to do another draft by tomorrow. We're thinking because they're pretty pressed for time as far as getting their animator. There's not going to be like a full official Beanstalk visual identity set from when they needed to start the video. So we're thinking of actually making that video kind of like an unofficial community created project. That way it puts a little bit less pressure on them, and they don't need to make it completely on brand with Beanstalk. They can kind of make it a little bit more, just kind of like a one-off community thing. Definitely wanted to get a little bit of feedback on that from the community though, if you all are okay with that. Just knowing with like the timelines and things like that.
My take on it would be that I think getting it as long as it meets our standards. It might not meet 100% of like the new branding type of requirements or whatever, but like getting out a little bit of content just to get some video out there is probably good. Yeah, I would just think that, trying to push for a little bit sooner as opposed to, I'd like to, it'd be great to have something sooner rather than later in my eyes.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's kind of why we're thinking like, just to make it a little bit more unofficial, and that way we can have some type of video to share on the socials. That's kind of the aim of it now. But yep, that's pretty much just the update as far as that page or that video goes.
So D's Beans, next I wanted to, if there was a chance, I wanted to see if you could share, are you able to share your screen? Because I wonder if you could show the org chart, and just, obviously we're going to flesh it out a little bit more, but I think that could be a really helpful thing. Maybe we put it on the Notion. I think that it just helps people kind of like understand who is in, what department. And I think that was like a breakthrough moment for us once we put it together. So I wanted to see if maybe you could just sort of give people a taste of it, so that maybe we could see it later. Also, then if people said, oh, I really shouldn't be in that department, or I think maybe, it might just help for people to see it. And I'm just,
yeah, no, for sure. I just shared it. But apologies, community, for the crude drawings. It's still a work in progress, as you can see. Just sketches.
Okay, it just loaded for me. So this is all elsewhere in the Notion, but it just sort of helps to have things laid out, I think. So, Deez, you could cut us through it a little bit. And
oh, yeah. Okay.
Creating it.
Yeah, so just because right now, Beanstalk Farms, so I guess to kind of go through, we kind of have like 3 DAOs right now in this Discord. We have the Beanstalk Farms DAO. And sorry if this is a little bit redundant for people who have been here a bit longer, but the Beanstalk Farms DAO is just the DAO that's trying to help support Beanstalk and move product and all that stuff. The Bean Sprout, that's run by Mr. Manifold. These are like the one-off projects and the one-off proposals that people can do, things like the layer 3 bounties. And then the actual Beanstalk DAO, just the regular Beanstalk DAO, these are all the stockholders. And so as we're just onboarding a ton of people into the Beanstalk Farms DAO, because we needed hire, we need people. We wanted to kind of make sure everything was fully organized and cleaned up, so that as we're onboarding people, we know exactly where to put them, and which department they would go to, and who they could go to help them through the hiring process, et cetera, et cetera. And we have kind of these 5 main departments that we're thinking. The design department, the marketing department, operations, engineering, and biz dev. And obviously this is not final, so if anyone has feedback or is like, yeah, just like what Dumpling said, oh, I want to be in this department versus that one, you're not really limited to your department, but it is nice to kind of have your home, so that way we know which circles we can work in. But yeah, we kind of just, since we're small enough, we literally listed out everyone who was hired on here. But Dumpling, yeah, I don't know if there's anything else.
Yeah, no, I think that's about enough. It's just like we're trying to get organized here. We're trying to figure out who should be. I think that everyone should probably have at least like a weekly check-in with their sort of department head or whoever's closest to whoever they're working with. And this just helps us sort of organize it, like, between people saying, oh, okay, like, it may be that there's some people on here that you never have contact with, and that's okay if they're outside of your circle. But if they're in your circle, we should probably be in touch with them, or at least aware of, what they're doing, what they're up to, and just helps kind of overall, I think, to get a visual at a high level. So we'll clean this up. If you have any thoughts or concerns or anything like that, just kind of let us know. I just kind of wanted to just show it off. Okay, let's get back to the schedule here. So I'm going to push the eReal thing about the eReal's idea for email standardization. We'll probably talk about next week. We have Silo Chad. Let me see. Looks like we don't. I just wanted to get maybe Publius. Would you mind giving a pod marketplace update, or if anyone else?
Sure. If Beanjoyer's here, maybe they want to go ahead.
Sure.
Not sure if they are. If not, we can go ahead. Don't want to steal their thunder.
Yeah. No, I don't see Beanjoyer.
So we're wrapping things up on the pod marketplace side. It will require a BIP to be incorporated into the Beanstalk contract. And so, we would say maybe within a week, we can expect to get that proposal, either at least a draft live or perhaps even the formal on-chain BIP. That's kind of on the immediate horizon. Now, from a DAO perspective, we do need to draft that proposal, although my understanding is that Austin and eReal have done a good job of getting that started. I'm not sure if, Austin, you can just comment on the status of the documents and whether or not it will be easy to port the current content into like a budget, not a budget, a BIP proposal.
Yeah, that's mostly put together. I think it'll be a lot of copy and paste. We'll run it by you first, probably, and then I'll also have to touch up the how-to guide once I see the new UI. But most of the work is done there.
Great, thank you. So that's in the immediate future, and maybe just one complexity that we would highlight is that the Omniscia audit is well underway at this point. And so one of the problems is that, we're continuing to aggressively push updates to the code and new commits, in the sense of, Leo Fib is doing a great job of leading the back end, and developing a lot of the more sophisticated functionality that will help Beanstalk scale in the coming months. But the question is now, how do we get Omniscia to both, finalize the audit on the old version of the code, but now, how can we get up to speed as we keep pushing BIPs in real time? Because we don't want to delay upgrades, another month until the Omniscia audit's done and then they can review the new BIPs. So one thing that we've been trying to figure out with them is how can we figure out an agreement that allows them to sort of continuously audit Beanstalk and each of the BIPs in advance. And specifically, we highlighted that we really want it to be done in a timely fashion, so that they're not the delay or the cog in the wheel and we can keep pushing content. So they just today sent us a draft formal retainer agreement, which just, speaking candidly, we found to be very attractive and reasonable. So we are thinking now about proposing another BIP to fund like a continuous relationship with Omniscia, so that they can continue to audit Beanstalk as we roll out further BIPs, and that includes something like the pod marketplace, which is pretty complex, in the sense that, it's not like we're adding one or two functions to the contract. So it is really important that now that Beanstalk is getting audited, that each new version of the code and each BIP is also audited. So this is just an important step, but one that we wanted to hold off on until Omniscia started to actually perform the audit and we get a sense of what that relationship is like. But at this point, we're feeling pretty good. And so, that's just something that's developed in the past day that's also relevant.
Okay, that sounds great. While we're at it, Publius, is there any, I wanted to give you a chance to have the floor for a few minutes just to give any other, or I can keep going through our action items and you can maybe take something at the end. What do you think?
Why don't you keep going, Dumpling? This is great.
Okay, I'm going to keep going through the schedule and then we'll give Publius maybe the sign off at the end so we can get a few other updates. Okay, so next. Yeah, IPO and Chill and JWW were working on, they had a couple of interviews or meetings with marketing agencies, PR agencies, So just kind of exploring that. So I just wanted to see, I think probably JWW, I don't think IPO is here. So do you want to give an update on who you spoke with and what the status is there?
Absolutely. Also, I have to give a call out to, I think it's Chami and that bean. I mean, just money. So we've on the kind of paid marketing side, paid media side, in the sense that we're paying them, not paid for advertising. Have been chatting with a couple of people. IPO's had a couple conversations. We've had a conversation with a team overseas that actually we like quite a bit. And so we're just trying to figure out like the best avenue to help bring awareness to Beanstalk. And I want to really emphasize that this is not through paid media. NASDAQ, I've seen you have a couple comments about it, and I think the community in general feels the same way. Like, we don't want to be doing this through paid media. This is more so looking at like what is more traditional PR and like social outreach, and just trying to get more people to help us do that. So for example, the team that we reached out to and that we've kind of had one conversation with, and we're aiming to have another one pretty soon. Like, they might help us with reaching out in terms of a PR side and media coverage. So that would include both kind of more traditional, like old school finance press when it comes to like Bloomberg and CNBC and stuff like that, and Business Insider, a little closer to Web3 by, talking to outlets like CoinDesk. And they have connections and relationships with editors at these publications. So it's much easier for them to get conversations going. And obviously, we would pass all this through Publius to make sure, like, your voices the voices of Publius and Beanstalk, et cetera, is articulated the way that it needs to be, et cetera. Nothing would ever go out live prior to that. But one section would be like looking at public relations and media coverage. Another would be in terms of like social media and like blog management. Should we even want to go down the blog side? I know we talked about adding that on the site, but in terms of like the social media side, they would help us, with if we need it, pushing things on Twitter and on Instagram, LinkedIn, if we go in that route with them, and then YouTube. Again, it's also really helpful because they have access to a laundry list of high volume Instagram, high volume YouTube, high volume Twitter. Some of it, again, is kind of leans a little less like the crypto or the DeFi natives, and a little bit more mainstream, again, just to help kind of look to drive volume into the protocol. They also would potentially help us look into getting into future podcasts and work on outreach in terms of getting us into like panels for speaking opportunities, other AMAs, and interviews. And then there's a couple of other ways that they can help us in terms of marketing campaigns. Should we want to go that route with them? They can, each of these agencies can provide a bunch of other stuff too. Like, they can do creative and design, but obviously we're doing that in-house, so we don't need to. But they also have, which might be helpful, is they have investor relations where they basically take a cut for introducing us to larger institutional capital, it sounds like. So there's a bunch of avenues that this agency could help with, this one that we're talking to in particular. But again, the idea is from an organic growth side, how can we continue to grow the brand, and just basically get more help to do it. And so once we get kind of a better understanding of what this might look like in the end, obviously we'll be sharing it with the community. And then in terms of funding and stuff like that, we're not sure exactly what that would look like, but nothing's getting pushed out. We're just still in the immediate conversations, but hopefully in the next week or two, we can kind of wrap up what those look like, and then be able to share with the community what we envision that looking like and how soon that can roll out. But really think from growing our social following and the outreach to kind of these more other publications, this could be a very big win for us.
Great. Can you give us an idea of like how many you've spoken to, or when you give us the updates, you'll give us like, we spoke to these folks, we didn't like them for this and this and this reason, we spoke to this folks. Like, will you give us a breakdown like that, or what was your plan?
Yeah. We absolutely can. I'll be honest, some of them are not worth even giving an update to the team because they just were conversations that didn't go anywhere. But yeah, we can once we whittle it down to like the 3 or 4, like absolutely, because it's not obviously just like I say that we're making, but these 3 make sense. So for example, we talked to one IPO talked to somebody who he thought was going to be a good lead, but ended up just being like somebody who seems like he's just trying to shill NFTs, but kind of positioned himself in a different way. So the fringe stuff that doesn't seem value added at all, we won't even waste the community's time. But in terms of those that we think are value added and might actually go in the direction with, absolutely share it.
Okay, great, makes sense. Now, next, speaking of NFTs, do you want to give an update on the NFTs, the minting of which, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I think the big thing was that the winter NFTs now are mintable, and Beanstalk and Publius, I think, made an announcement about that a day or two ago. But everyone should be able to go to the Bean NFT tab now and scroll down and see the winter NFTs and be able to mint them. And then we'll be sharing future information about the NFTs in the near future.
Great. Yeah, I just minted mine. And I'd encourage people to maybe just like throw a tweet out there or just, copy paste them somewhere in the Discord. It's kind of fun to share which ones you got. Okay. Oh, and do you want to speak a little bit about the payroll? We've been getting that set up, and you have everything you need from everyone, I assume. I just, wanted to
Yeah, I think everyone's probably pretty excited to hear about this. First, everyone, thank you for sending over the details that you did about getting payroll set up. Just for this first round of payment, it's just taking us a little bit more to finalize and make sure that it's smooth. But then, ideally, starting in the first week or so of February through the rest of the quarter, we should have this much more streamlined. So everyone, thank you for your patience just as you've been doing this and responding to the one-off messages that I've been sending you and stuff like that. But yeah, it should all be ready to go, and we should be able to push out payment in the very near future. But if you have any other questions, definitely about this or anything else that I've been talking about, be sure to send me a DM. I don't know if there's anything else to talk about on the payroll side, Dumpling or Publius or anything.
Probably just that. We'll keep the rest of that kind of internal, but I just wanted to let everyone know we are working on it. And JWW, thank you very much for your help. I think it's very nice and organized and well done. So we're really happy about that. Okay, next. Syncubate. Are you near Mike? Would want to bring you up. And I know JWW, you were talking a little bit about this with him too. The Pods initiative to support 1559 community. I wanted to give you a few minutes to chat about that, bring that up to the community, and tell them where to find more information on that.
Hey, good evening. Do you hear me okay?
Yeah, you sound great.
All right. Hello, everyone. So, as we briefly alluded to last week during the DAO call, a question came up as far as how can we engage other communities to broaden the audience and brand recognition of Beanstalk within DeFi and the Ethereum community. And I brought up an idea that JWW and I had been discussing on the side regarding public goods funding, linking that to engaging other communities within DeFi and the Ethereum space, and specifically the EIP 1559 NFT series that was produced last summer to support 22 contributors and developers that were a significant part of making EIP 1559 a reality. And as you all know, that's had a significant impact in terms of the monetary value and policy of Ethereum since it was debuted last summer. So what does this encompass? Essentially, there were 22 developers and contributors that received funding from that NFT series. The NFT series was composed of two parts. The first predominant part was what they called the supporter NFT, and they sold 1,559 of those for 0.1559 ETH each. And so all 1,559 supporter NFTs, they look exactly the same. There's no distinction between them. So the people that purchased these were strictly purchasing them to show their support and gratitude for these 22 developers and contributors that so made EIP 1559 a reality. Separately, there was an additional NFT. They called it the Patron NFT, and that was sold via an auction, and it ultimately sold for 32 ETH. This Patron NFT, the funds were also distributed to these 22 developers and contributors. And the Patron NFT is distinct, so it has variation in terms of the image and the features, but in totality, you can see that there was a significant amount of ETH that was raised and distributed to these 22 developers and contributors, varying proportions depending, I guess, on criteria that they determined internally. But long story short, we'd like to engage that community. We think that in doing so, we might broaden the audience and potential user base of Beanstalk, and we may not capture everybody. We may not be able to attract everybody, but even if we can attract some, I think that would be a big win for Beanstalk, and in terms of raising its visibility and just making it clear that Beanstalk stands behind the idea of public goods funding. So JWW and I had been talking about, how can we do this? So we are proposing that for the 22 devs and contributors who received funding through that NFT raise, we would, the community would donate 22 Bean NFTs to those 22 devs and contributors. And then separately, 1,559 pods, and JWW, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is my understanding based off of our most recent communication, 1,559 pods would be allocated to the 22 devs and contributors, the one holder of the Patron NFT, and the 1,559 holders of the supporter NFT. So in total, we would be donating just under 2.5 million pods if this is agreed upon by the community, and if there's support from the community, and I'm referring to the Beanstalk community. JWW and I are committed to this, speaking for ourselves. He's agreed to put forward one Bean NFT. So we would need 21 more to donate to the 22 devs and contributors. Separately, I've agreed to donate 15,000 pods. And so we would need, we'd still need a good chunk of pods to make up the difference. And so we're just throwing this out there for everybody's kind of, everybody digest, we welcome your feedback, but we would see this as an opportunity to, number one, make it clear to the Ethereum community and to the broader DeFi space that, Beanstalk is a stablecoin protocol that stands behind ecosystem development and those that make it happen. And number two, this would be an opportunity to engage a much broader user base, many of whom are, regular people on ETH Finance, on crypto Twitter. Speaking for myself, I found out about this fundraise through ETH Finance last summer. So that's all I have for now. JWW, was there anything else?
No, I think you nailed it, Syncubate. I think in terms of our contributions, it's a little different, but yeah, that's a small little detail. But so we listed these details out that Syncubate just walked through, so you don't have to, in case you didn't jot down all of that, in the 1559. I think it's the EP 1559 marketing thread. It's within the DAO projects. So if you guys go to the DAO projects, in that you'll see like the pod marketplace dev, the EP 1559 video curriculum, etc. And so further details about that that we just talked through, that Syncubate just talked through, we actually spell out there for you to take a look at. And we just listed this out there. I mean, if anyone has any immediate responses, that would be great. Candidly, thinking through this logistically, I had a chance to talk with a few other community members about it. It seems like it might be a little tough to execute, just in terms of like collecting the funds and tracking it and accounting for gas. But overall, I think it's a great initiative, and I think Syncubate, thank you so much for bringing this up, and I've enjoyed kind of talking through it with you. But obviously, we would love everyone's thoughts, either now or if you have some time to think through it, and then leave comments in that thread. That would be fantastic.
This is something that we have time to open up. about, and I think it'd be good to get some feedback. And I think the public setting would be a decent avenue for that. If people have thoughts, we don't have to spend time on it, but I just thought I'd open it up because we have a little bit of time to discuss. And to kick it off, my one thought would just be that 1559 pods each might be seen as a little bit low once people dig into the protocol, and maybe there's some way of I don't want it to get too expensive, but maybe we could reward the people the original contributors, like the 22, with maybe an order of magnitude higher than that, but then the other people could potentially like mint them if they, I'd like to minimize gas. I was just thinking minimizing gas. So maybe offering people the ability to mint them instead of airdropping them, or setting them off. And then, go ahead.
The other thing we would just point out is because pods are not like an ERC20 asset or an ERC721, they're not going to show up in people's wallets. So we'll need to have a really concerted effort to direct people to attend the website, if that makes sense. Visit the website and recognize their pods. So it's like the airdrop needs to be publicized, otherwise it's useless.
And it just seems as if people had to come and claim the pods, it'd also be less expensive. We wouldn't have to actually allocate it until people actually came and did it, and maybe only 25% of people actually do it. So that would be the one piece of feedback I'd give. But certainly interested in it. If it gets rolling, you could count on me for a donation, either for an NFT or for some pods. I'd be happy to discuss. I think it's a great idea overall. Just logistically, it could get a little tricky.
Yeah, and just a comment in terms of what Publius mentioned about making sure that this is kind of broadcasted appropriately. I brought this up to JWW. The artist that was behind creating the NFT as part of the fundraise, their Twitter handle is @ _Kita Design. So they're an established NFT artist. So my thinking is, if we did proceed with this, we could probably engage the artist and let them know that, hey, as a community, we'd like to show our support for public goods funding, and this is our first kind of initiative along that, frame of thought. And, we could work with that artist to kind of make the message known to the holders of this NFT series. And the contributors, obviously, who made EIP 1559 reality.
Did you say _Kita? Or just Kita?
Yeah. I'll shoot you I'll just message it to you.
Sure.
And you can.
Yeah, maybe we should reach out to them in advance of this, just saying we're thinking about this, would this be something that we could really count on your support to promote or to be behind? Would you be interested in this? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea, Dumpling. Sorry for the background noise, but I think maybe let's flesh it out. Just to your point, to Publius's point, let's definitely flesh it out a little bit more. Because if we're actually going to execute on it, I think that's one thing versus it just being an idea that it might take up too much effort.
And there'll be plenty of discussion over in that channel. So in the DAO projects channel, the EP 1559 marketing. So there's a lot of active chat in that, and let's keep it going over there. But it's great to have this on everyone's radar. Syncubate, thanks for explaining it so fully for us. And on to the next item now. So we had another branding meeting with These Beans, and I wanted to bring These Beans back up on the stage just to say, kind of give a highlight from that branding meeting, and update the DAO. And we ended up leaving that meeting with 3 areas of focus, that we really think are probably most important. So, These Beans, could you just maybe take a few minutes and, for everyone that wasn't at that meeting, kind of give an update and point people in the direction of any notes or anything like that?
Yeah, for sure. I can be pretty brief here. So, it was pretty much our final brand meeting to kind of solidify some things. We have the doc, and I would say probably 85-90% done. And so we encourage people to use it. It's if you need to know where it is, I know the current version is on the Notion in the marketing tab. And what we were able to do is we were able to finalize kind of the brand personality or the attributes of what Beanstalk is, who we are, that kind of thing. And we're also able to finalize our target audience, come to consensus. And we're also able to come to consensus on what our next major steps are. Dumpling was talking a little bit about it earlier. So the three main things that everyone felt was top priority was one, create educational content. So content to help explain people what the white paper is, or to give a friend, or just resources for people to understand Beanstalk. The other one is streamline the experience, which is just meaning revamp the website, revamp the UX and the UI. And then the last one being increase awareness, obviously, because we're focusing on growth right now. And so we need to, we're taking a lot of time to plan out how we're going to do marketing and how we're going to grow, but also grow organically, because we want to make sure that we're getting the right people and not the paper-handed pump and dumpers. The things that we didn't get to in that meeting that we will be figuring out soon, those are, the first thing is we need to figure out the budget for those tasks. And the second thing being just finalizing some of those high-level statements in the branding doc, the final 10% being, for example, like the purpose statement, our positioning statement, and the mission statement. But yeah, it's available in the Notion, and so we definitely encourage everyone, if you're curious what Beanstalk is and what our brand strat is, like go and look it up.
Okay, great. Thank you. So to highlight those 3 points, it was the creating educational content. Number 1, streamlining the experience, which is mostly focused on improvements to the website. And number 3, increasing awareness, which is could be things like like the marketing push that we're doing, even with I have the little project going for Twitter that Canadian Bennett put together a list for that, and reaching out to people that way, but also like JWW and IPO and Chill reaching out to marketing and PR agencies, like things like that. So okay, well, great. That's what we have for the sort of formal agenda. I want to open things up for people, pain points people are having, ideas, that sort of thing. So the floor is open.
I have a question. I don't know if this has been discussed before, and if it makes sense to think about something like this or not. I was talking to 2 friends yesterday about Beanstalk, and they were like looking at it from a P&L point of view or level, where they wanted to trying to understand how does this look month on month. And I understand that you can get the data and try to run it in there, but do we want to do something like that is easier for those who are used to that kind of reading, so that they understand what's happening in the protocol?
In what format would that be, or what specifically would they be looking for?
The way I see it is pretty simple right now. So let's say month on month, what you're looking at is how much did the protocol buy in beans. You bought this much in beans, and then you issued that many debt. So the debt becomes your expense, and then it sits on the balance sheet. And then the months that the protocol prints money, then this is the profit, and then you're paying off on that. And then month on month, you can start seeing are you going negative or positive, negative or positive. Anyone here with accounting background that can add more into that, or understand what I'm talking about?
You could probably query the subgraph for that kind of thing, or
yes. I mean the data is already available. It just becomes like a form of a report. I'm happy to draft something and share it, and if people here think that it's interesting, or it adds more credibility or transparency to the protocol, then we can give it a thought.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it'll be with the new BIP that passed, Publius, won't it end up being net even as opposed to the amount of beans that are printed balancing out the amount of debt issued? And then it's just as we grow, the proportion of debt to the size of the protocol gets smaller?
What you said, Dumpling, is correct, but not sure how exactly that relates to Mod's concern about wanting to model different things out.
Yeah, I'm thinking what I'm talking about here is more like a financial report. So what we're looking at here is the market cap. This is the currency or the market cap of beans, basically. But that doesn't give you what's happening on the DAO level, you know. So think of it like,
we were just wait. You're talking about a financial report for the DAO, like Beanstalk Farms. Like, what is Beanstalk Farms spending its money on? Or you're talking about like a financial report on the status of Beanstalk?
Beanstalk itself.
So on that front, you know, we would highly encourage people like yourself, Mod, to write their own thoughts up. But in general, we definitely want Beanstalk Farms to stay away from giving financial advice or financial appraisals of Beanstalk. You know, that's where we think we run into a little bit of trouble, perhaps.
Understood and clear.
Hey, Mod, to your point, real quick. I'm not sure, and correct me if I'm wrong, everybody. Is there a Dune Analytics page? Do you think that might be helpful, like a public? I know we have analytics on the Beanstalk website, but to your point about maybe more analytics for those that are interested, do you think that might be helpful?
I think the question that we're trying to answer, like the answer, or you know, the point of it is like anyone comes here. You know, the first question is. First of all, how does this thing make money, and has it been, you know, working or not? And yes, you can take a look at, you know, how often has it been printing, how often has it been issuing debt, and then come to those conclusions or these conclusions. But if you see it in a typical P&L level, and then you see, like, you know, in this month, this is how much was printed, and this is how much debt was issued, and then you can see are you positive or in the negative, and you continue building up on it. But anyways, maybe I may not be clear or I'm explaining it well, so I can draft something and share it, because this won't be really advice. It's just what's happening. It's more of like, let's say, you know, we want to get audited financially, not from a security perspective. This is what they will look at and say, you know, that's what's happening. The data is there. There is like no more to give out there. It's just presenting it.
All right, I'm about to sneeze. Someone else has to chime in.
I was just going to say briefly, I think one of the reasons we don't have a Dune Analytics page is because we're using a diamond structure for the protocol. So until Dune updates or we can find some alternative, I think that's what prohibits the Dune Analytics.
Well, Evan, I'm not sure if Evan's here. Evan had said that they thought they could get some stuff up on Dune, but not sure if they had made any progress on that.
I can follow up with Evan on that. That would be amazing. Yeah, I remember him saying that, and that seemed pretty cool. So if that could be done, that'd be amazing.
Yeah,
I think Dune would be great.
Publius just said in the DAO Barnyard chat that Beanstalk is on Dune now, but that's news to us. So would have to find a link. Not sure if you can post it, Publius.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole like Dune dashboard community. I know they have like a podcast and they feature different dashboards. So yeah, please post a link and maybe some of us could go kind of play around there and see if we can share it with some people who'd be interested.
I think that could be referenced on the main page somewhere.
Sure.
Yeah, we also have to add the curve pool to the website as well. A link to that. So lots of different things we have to update.
Well, unless anyone has any other things they want to bring up, which is certainly open to, I might pass it to Publius for some other kind of updates and their thoughts.
Sure. Thank you, Dumpling. First off, our biggest concern is that people are not going to spend the hour, which is a real pain in the ass, but it's important that everyone does it, getting themselves set up with the Notion. Because once you go through the friction of just understanding how it works, it will greatly benefit everyone to operate through the Notion and to keep it live and updated. So Hugh has done a great job of putting together a series of videos that should explain pretty in depth how the Notion works. And with all due respect to Hugh, that it is a little bit dense to get through. So we would encourage people to spend time spacing it out so that they can really focus. But we would just really encourage everyone to block out the time. They're not that long, 10 minutes a pop or so, to get familiar with the Notion. That would be our first just item that we would really encourage everyone to spend the time so that things can start to run more efficiently. And in line with that, if there are things that are unclear or you don't understand or you think can be improved, definitely shoot us a line. Dumpling, is there a place already for suggestions and stuff for the Notion? Or if not, maybe we can add a spot for that either in the Discord or the Notion. Not sure.
Yeah, I'll add it right in on top of the videos, or maybe right at the end of the videos, so people can just jot down their various comments on. I'll add a little spot for that. That's a great idea. One thing I'd mention on the Notion is I mentioned this in the operations meeting, but if you play it at 1.25 times speed, that's I found that perfect as far as understandability, but also just keeping things kind of snappy. And but they're really great videos. Just watch them, and we can see on YouTube how many people have seen it. And right now, it's not too many. So let's all try to watch those if we can.
So we already spoke a little bit about the pod marketplace. That's sort of in the immediate pipeline. One thing that we're kind of curious for people's thoughts here, and we don't know what is the right answer, but to date, we've gone out of our way to make sure that each version of the code, each BIP that has substantive changes to the model, has an associated version of the white paper with it. And over the next 2 months, let's call it, there's going to be a series of BIPs that are all very much related, like adding the curve pool to the silo and then adding the curve pool to the Oracle, that we could maybe continue to do one white paper per version of the code, but it's starting to take up an excessive amount of our time, and we're thinking about maybe just doing not a 2.0 version of the white paper, but a significant leap in the direction where it's going, so that maybe we don't have to do five different versions. Not sure if people find the level of granularity we've been performing changes helpful thus far, and whether people think we should keep doing that, in which case if people think it's really valuable, there's a reason we've been doing it, so it's not like we're necessarily jonesing to stop, but just not sure if that's the best use of our time versus doing a larger update to the white paper. And this is just something that's been on our mind.
I mean, I personally think that it's, for me, it's not too much of a problem if you maybe do it in chunks, larger revision. I feel like that's just a little bit more efficient, and especially while we're in crunch time, to just be moving product.
I would also cast a vote in that direction. I think, things like links to the curve pool from the Bean.money site are the, more impactful low-hanging fruit that everyone sees, rather than a few edits to the white paper, which are important at the end of the day, but I think, to your point, can certainly be batched.
Yeah, I vote the same way. I think I've been getting a lot of questions from, not everyone looks at the white paper. Some people are just saying oh, I get a lot of questions about why the silo is paying 3% and like how much they can expect to make in the next year in the silo if it's only 3%. And I'm like, like some of the level of understanding is much lower. And I think if we could push out changes like that as I would just encourage you to batch it and be as efficient as possible.
Yeah, I mean, the only problem is, at the margin, that just means that there might be short periods in time where the white paper is slightly inaccurate, which we've tried really hard to avoid as much as possible. Now, there has been a lag typically when a BIP has been approved and when we've published the white paper to reflect those changes. So it's not like there's already like a perfect situation, but this feedback is helpful, and we may scale back the level of granularity to each version of changes. And there's no right answer here, so we appreciate everyone's feedback.
Can we also maybe even just on the white paper in the beginning, just like write a side note or something saying, oh, it's updated every 3 weeks or something, or 2 weeks. I don't know how often we want to do it, but that way people, if they're really concerned about it, they can just see that it's like, oh, okay, it was updated here and it's going to get updated at this time.
Yeah, I mean, the problem with that is we don't know the pace that BIPs will go out. Like the pod marketplace BIP is one thing, that's probably a simpler integration into the white paper because it'll be more just a part of the appendix probably. But the curve integration into the silo and the Oracle, those are sort of two separate changes to the white paper, but we want to generalize both the silo section and the Oracle section to encompass other pools potentially. We don't want to keep rewriting the white paper to upgrade, every time we add a pool. So the point is, maybe it isn't even that many versions of the white paper, and at this point we're just thinking out loud. So thank you everyone for your feedback. We want to do what everyone else thinks is right as well here. So go ahead.
I was just going to say, could you just whenever we add a BIP that changes the Oracle or the silo or something, maybe just add a note at the top of that section and be like, hey, go check out the BIP that's attached to the bottom of the white paper. And that explains the changes that happened. Like just add the BIPs to the bottom of the white paper. Like, I think that'd be a lot faster and easier.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea, actually. The problem is at some point you get into the white paper, just gets abusively long. Like it's already 35 pages. And now you add each of the BIPs, that'll probably add 10 pages or something to the white paper. So yeah, we're going to think a little bit more about this, but this is all very helpful.
Yeah, and Dumpling, Publius, the white paper is the source of truth at the end of the day for everything, right? So, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I agree with everyone else that updating it in chunks makes a lot of sense. But it is like the source of truth for everything, correct?
Correct, and that's why to date we've tried really, really hard to keep it as accurate as humanly possible. And we reread the white paper front to back, really in depth for the first time during the version edits for 1.6.0, and we did make pretty thorough just modifications and tweaks, but the whole thing has held up pretty well to the point where we do feel like, the BIPs that are all lined up in the next 2 months can probably be incorporated either in 4 versions of the white paper or 1. And so that's at the margin, that's probably what we're considering. So unclear whether it'll be 2 versions we end up putting out or 1 or 4, but this is very helpful.
And knowing that, Publius, would it make sense at all to potentially look for a part-time technical writer that Publius vets quite thoroughly?
We've been looking so hard, I promise you. Yeah, that's top of. Ultimately, we want the white paper to be maintained by the community, but given how important it has been in attracting the really high-quality community that Beanstalk has thus far, we are committed to making sure that it maintains its really high standards. So until we're not at the point where we feel like we can hand off any of those responsibilities for better or worse.
Right, that makes sense. I mean, if it's helpful, I'm happy to just get on a call and you could, Publius in general could just talk through high level what those criteria of someone might look like for a technical writer, and then in turn, obviously once you sign off and approve it, whatever it is, I think it might be a way for the community to help potentially look for future technical writers to help, rather than making that seem like it's entirely on Publius's shoulders, just as an option.
Yeah, I think that should probably be a part of the job board that, as we're working on structuring the Notion a little bit more, that's definitely a job. So maybe you can just make a note, J-Dubs, and we'll be sure to flesh that out together.
Sounds great.
Not to get you off the white paper, Publius, but anything else that's top of mind?
All right, fine. We'll stop talking about the white paper. So there's probably not too much. Everyone's already been on 15 minutes, so don't want to take up too much of your time. But maybe the last thing is, want to thank everyone for your patience as we've been getting together the snapshots stuff. We know it's annoying to get paid a little bit late, and we're sorry about that, but do want to give just a quick shout out to JWW, who's done an amazing job to get the infrastructure set up for continuous on-time payments going forward. So this should be like a one-time delay, and we feel pretty good about the setup on that front for Q1. So sorry about that, and thank you everyone for coming out.
Okay, well, thanks for everyone. Thanks for coming out, everyone. And we'll see you next week. We'll be doing on Tuesday, we'll be back to our regular scheduled A&T University. And also want to let you know that there's a little Guess the Beans giveaway. If you go onto Twitter, you'll see it. Also, there's a link to it in the Discord. So the fun jar of black beans, I haven't counted them yet. So that's a fun one. Thanks for coming, and we'll see you all around the farm.
Thank you, Dumpling, for a good meeting. Thank you, guys. Take care.